The Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk some new Doctor Who once again with my wonderful partner in time and all-around wonderful person, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am fine, Charles. I'm putting a pot of tea on because I feel like I'm having royalty visit. The very royal highness of Doctor Who podcast, Charles. Yeah, we've got a fun one to talk about today. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. We just watched this last night. So today, here at episode 168, we're getting up there.
Yes, we are.
Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. And this aired just last night on January 19th, 2020. So we're obviously, if you follow the logic, we're talking of this on January 20th, 2020, 1/20/20. And this one was written by Nina Matevier, who is a new writer to Doctor Who, and directed by Nida Manzoor, who's going to be directing next week's episode, Fugitive of the Jadoon.
Okay.
But right now, also brand new to Doctor Who, this was the 4th episode of Series 12. Of course, starring Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandeep Gill as Yasmin Yaz Khan. And definitely looking forward to talking about this one with you, Jesse. I know we're doing a quick turnaround on this one, but dying to know your thoughts about it.
I read somewhere, and I can't remember, and so I'm plagiarizing, but I don't mean to. Some website said this felt like a David Tennant era episode, and they meant that in a good way.
Well,
and I think
was it just because of this, the Skithra, which kind of looked a little bit like, the Lazarus experiment.
Maybe, yes.
The all scorpion-like.
But I think it was just...
or because it kind of a Runaway Bride vibe, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's what Doctor Who does very best.
Yes.
I think Rosa was the best episode, Rosa Parks' episode last season.
Yeah.
This one, the Tesla, I think taking a person from history, bringing him visiting, I think... A great villain, and it was just scary enough. I just thought this was a lot of fun, and we had talked about last week's episode was it was good, but it just wasn't great.
Yeah,
I think this one was back to as a good as a standard Doctor Who episode can be. I mean, we didn't change any of the mythos; we just had a great adventure.
Well, that's good.
How about you?
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I like this one a lot. It was very, it was a lot more, had a little bit of everything that you want to see from Doctor Who. We got a historical figure, but unlike Rosa Parks, because you don't want Rosa Parks fighting aliens, because that's just silly. But Tesla, Nikola Tesla is that kind of character. You can get away with that a little more. And so he's more involved in the alien mystery in this one, and he's much more proactive in that story, and he's just a much more fun character, and it's great to see him bouncing off the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. who has some nice moments with him, and we'll talk about that. But, just overall, yeah, I just think this was a very fun episode. Kind of reminded me a little bit of not so much a David Tennant episode, but more of a Matt Smith episode, like Vincent and the Doctor, perhaps.
All right, I could see
a little bit of that, and so I just kind of not a complete ripoff, mind you, but no, just kind of echoes of that, which and there's certainly nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
That's one we still haven't talked about for some ungodly reason here on Next Stop Everywhere.
We should do that.
We should definitely do that.
So you usually go through the guest cast, but I did want to step in. I'm going to get his name wrong, but the guy who played Nikola Tesla.
You want me to pronounce it?
Yes, please.
All right, so I'm going to give it a shot here. So Goran Visnjic,
yes.
and he played Nikola Tesla, and I have down that he played. Well, actually, why don't you go ahead? You said you had the information, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead?
So not only was he on toward the end of ER, he was on ER for several years, and I think that's where a lot of people would know him.
Playing Dr. Luka Kovac, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
The show that you have not had a chance to watch, but that I and friend of the podcast Karen love, Timeless.
Yes.
He played Garcia Flynn, who was partially a villain and partially a hero, a very complex character. He is amazing in Timeless. Timeless is truly one of the shows that I love, and so I said it felt a little bit like a Timeless episode because he was there and we've got a historical figure.
Right.
He is just a really good actor, and I think it shows in how well he did as Tesla.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job, and obviously we're going to talk about Tesla. That's understandable because the episode title's Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, Goran also was in the movie, the David Fincher version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, nice.
He's in that movie, which is I love that movie. I love David Fincher. And just thought I love that adaptation of that that book. He was also, interestingly enough, for all you Marvel Comics fans, he was in the movie Elektra.
Oh, nice.
He played a character, I believe it was Matt Miller, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Something like that. Or Mark Miller, kind of a nod to Mark Millar maybe, but the writer Mark Millar. But he's also in that movie too. But I'm sure a lot of people know him primarily, obviously, from ER and Timeless.
I did not watch Extant. But I heard he was in that. So he's got a really long career, really good guy, and I think way to go, BBC. Signing a really well done actor to play this role. So I'm glad.
Yeah, and I thought he did a phenomenal job as Nikola Tesla. All right.
Yes.
We also had Robert Glenister, who played Thomas Edison, Boo Hiss, in a lot of things. And
yes,
I'm sure a lot of people that thought they knew stuff about Thomas Edison probably kind of taken aback a little bit about Thomas Edison. But if you look up some actual history, Thomas Edison, not exactly the nicest person on the planet.
Yes.
And that whole rivalry going on with Nikola Tesla, that's all true. And but here he's played by, like I said, Robert Glenister, who, if for classic fans like myself, remember him as the character Salatine from one of my all-time favorite stories, The Caves of Androzani. Peter Davison's final story. He's in that. So I spotted him right off the bat. He was also in an Eighth Doctor Big Finish audio adventure. He played a character named Abaresh in the Big Finish audio Absolution. And he's also been on episodes of Law & Order UK. So if you watch that series, you probably have seen him there as well. We also had, and this is a fun one, Anjli Mohindra as Queen Skithra the head of the Skithra. And if you're a Sarah Jane Adventures fan, you probably are a little bit familiar with the name because, hey, it's Ronnie Chandra from the Sarah Jane Adventures. One of the kids from the Sarah Jane Adventures, now playing an alien queen bad guy on Doctor Who. So that's kind of cool, right?
That is very cool.
That is very cool. And then we also had Haley McGee played Dorothy Scarrett, who is also an historical figure, although obviously not nearly as well known as Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I got just a couple of minor trivia things before we get into our main topics. First off, I want to talk about Tesla's quote that he gives. It's a very famous quote that he kind of recites toward the end of the episode, and where he's talking about the future being his.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not going to go in that full quote because we'll probably save that for our favorite quotes. But apparently that is a paraphrasing quote from a real life quote that he said.
All right.
So here's the real life quote. He said, "Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine." That's the full quote.
Okay.
It's reworked a little bit here, probably to make it sound a little better for modern audiences.
Sure.
But and also to kind of fit the context of the episode. But and we'll talk about that. But I just thought I'd give the full historical quote.
Yeah, very nice.
For a little bit of trivia.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Charles. When did you first, one of the criticisms someone had, and it was a minor one,
Yes.
of how did none of the companions know about Tesla? I think that's a fair,
Yeah.
But do you remember when you first found out about him?
Well, because I'm a bit of a science geek. So, especially in physics. So, and I watch movies like The Prestige. And so I was familiar with Nikola Tesla because of that. David Bowie played Tesla in that movie.
The Prestige is when I first...
And me being a big David Bowie fan, that kind of got my attention.
Yeah, and me being a big magician fan, absolutely. That was the first, as far as I can tell,
right.
I think that was the first awareness I had of, in a popular culture, what going on. Tesla has been in multiple, someone playing him in different, fiction. So that's good. I didn't know if you, think that fits with me as well.
But I think he's not exactly like a household name. So, it's not like you're talking Abraham Lincoln or, with somebody else. I'm trying to think of somebody right off the bat, but he's familiar, and I'm sure maybe with Ryan and Yaz being a younger generation, the closest thing they probably recognize him from is the name Tesla, from Elon Musk's line of electric cars.
Right.
But they probably don't make the connection. Like, what they should have said was like, oh, you mean like the electric car that Elon Musk invented.
Right.
But that wasn't in there, or at least it was cut. I don't know if it was actually in the script or not. But that would have made sense. At least because that's kind of like, that kind of millennial Generation Z kind of experience with that, especially if you're not someone who's predisposed to science. Because, Ryan, yes, he travels in time with a doctor, but he doesn't exactly have a science background. Neither does Yaz, as far as we know.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so I could see them not knowing him.
And that also made a funny of Graham going, he did that thingamabob,
yeah.
Go ahead and tell him, Doc.
Well, I'm sure, like if you went to somebody even, with like of Graham's generation.
Yes.
And you went, like, okay, hey, who's Nikola Tesla? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 9 out of 10 people don't know who he is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sad to say, but hopefully episodes like this will go a long way to changing that.
Yes.
because you should look up, you should research him. I know Barnes and Noble has a really cool book, his notes and stuff, the writings of Nikola Tesla in a nice little hardback collection that they did. Recommend checking that out. So
All right.
learning more about this guy because he's a very interesting person.
Absolutely.
Obviously. A little bit of trivia related to Nikola Tesla. This episode, it's set in 1903, but in real life, his assistant Dorothy Scarrett doesn't become his assistant until 1912. So that was kind of a little bit of creative license by the Doctor Who team.
Little timey-wimey.
Little
That's
timey-wimey,
okay, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe in the original timeline it was 1903, and the new timeline it's going to be 1912.
There you go. Yes.
Or vice versa. Take your pick.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, you've done it again. You've ended up changing the timeline. Time can be rewritten, I guess. All right, so let's get into our main topics. I only have
All
three.
right, sounds good.
I only have three this week, and because of our rather speedy turnaround, I don't have a theme because I'm late. Because I'm lazy today, apparently.
No, not at all.
All right, so let's talk about first topic I want to talk about. Let's talk about the Doctor and the Fam a little bit. So the Doctor, we'll talk about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison in our second segment, and we'll talk about the Skithra in our third segment.
Okay.
So first, let's talk about the Doctor and the Fam. Her companions, and they show up in 1903, Niagara Falls, New York. Niagara Falls, slowly I turned, step by step, inch by inch. That's a very old Three Stooges reference, by the way.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and it's one of their shorts. And the Doctor shows up looking for weird stuff. Apparently, we find that the Doctor has felt that apparently, she's detecting something that's, some strange energy device, and comes across Tesla, and they start interacting right off the bat. The Doctor and Tesla, the first it's a little abrasive. She accuses him of lying, and then they kind of start connecting as science geeks.
Yes.
And so what did you make of the Doctor's relationship in this episode to Tesla? And then we got to see the companions dressed in, 1903 attire and walking around New York. So let's talk
my
about
first
those.
comment is, why doesn't the Doctor dress up in appropriate clothing?
Very rarely the Doctor does.
Because she's the Doctor, and they never do.
The Doctor gives 0 Fs when it comes to
exactly.
dressing historically.
Has 0 Fs to give.
Yes.
Yes, I loved seeing them dress up in the period costumes.
Right.
I love the comments about wanting to be in New York. Yeah, we don't have that yet. We don't have that. Don't have that. Oh yeah, we've got Central Park. Did see the Statue of Liberty in the background, and I'm like, oh, is that a sleeping angel yet?
Weeping angel.
Weeping angel, yes.
You remember it's a weeping angel, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that a lot. I did. Even when she was mad at Tesla, she never lost her admiration for him.
Right.
So I really like that. When she goes into his lab, she's like, oh, I gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed.
Yes.
That was pretty funny.
I was expecting more. Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was nice. All the companions, it did a little something. It was a nice, the issue is, I love the 4-person, but unfortunately you're going to divide the character pie, and the Doctor gets the biggest slice. So the other 3 don't get as much time, but I'm okay with that. Well, I think that's,
Yeah. I mean, last week in Orphan 55, Ryan got a little bit extra to do.
Yes.
This week it was Yaz. Yaz got a little bit extra to do.
Yes.
Which was nice because she kind of gets paired with Tesla a little bit.
Yes, she does.
And she kind of tries to lift his spirits. And she's one at the end of the episode. She's kind of very disappointed that he remains obscure in history.
And I think that goes back to why this reminds you of Vincent and the Doctor.
Yes,
because Amy was convinced that because we had done this, there would be more paintings and he would not end his life so tragically. And I think Yaz is the same thing. Now that people are going to know, and it didn't matter.
right.
And I like that scene. I like that scene a lot. I continue to love Ryan and Graham's friendship. That they truly are.
Well, they're family.
Yeah, they are family, and they did that. The whole rodeo exchange back and forth.
That was great. That's one of my quotes. That's one of my quotes. Yes.
Yeah, it was good. I was really happy. I have one small nitpick.
Yes.
When the Doctor says, "I have a way to get out of here quickly," and all of a sudden they're on the train. How did they get to the train so quickly? It was almost like she had a teleporter to move them. So I didn't understand how they got on the train so quickly, but that's a minor point on my part.
Yeah, I mean, I've only watched it the one time because this is a quick turnaround.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure myself.
Okay.
And, she did have that teleporter. That sent her to the Skithra ship.
Okay.
So maybe it was that teleporter.
That makes sense.
Okay. So that I do remember that she had that teleporter.
Okay. Good.
So maybe let's just go with that. If nothing else, that's how we'll explain it.
Okay.
So apparently this glowing sphere that Tesla comes up with, the Doctor recognizes it as a Thassa orb, which is apparently an alien data storage device sent out by one of the ancient races. But the Doctor figures out, well, it's been altered from its original purpose and not exactly done skillfully.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously gets her to start connecting the puzzle dots and trying to piece together what's really going on here. She ends up confronting the Skithra, and we'll talk about the Skithra.
Okay.
But the Doctor, she gets to kind of scramble a little bit here,
Mm-hmm.
which is good, which is always makes for a better Doctor Who episode. And she's juggling a lot with with Tesla, and when I talked about that, the two had kind of a connection.
Yes.
As science geeks. So what did you make of that connection? What was your how'd you feel about them kind of bonding over as Tesla's explaining his love for science?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And I also thought that was a nice scene. I'm sure we're going to talk about Edison a little bit,
right.
But since we're talking science, when the Doctor is in the lab and starts naming chemicals,
right?
And they had made it appear that Edison was not the genius that Tesla was, but he caught up almost immediately with what the Doctor was going to do, which I thought was a nice little moment to show he is smart as well.
He is clever. Just because he's from 1903, that doesn't make him not clever.
Yeah. And so I liked, I'm always happy when the Doctor is impressed with someone and is excited to see someone. That always makes me happy. And she was ecstatic and she was very happy. And you do think it's funny after all these years that there are still people that the Doctor has never gotten around to visit. Right. You would think, okay, at this point, they've seen everyone he's supposed to see.
It's a very big universe, you guys. So
it's a very big
I saw
universe.
criticism about this. It's like, the Doctor's been traveling for like 3,000 years. which I think is closer to 2,000, but still. And, so hasn't she met Tesla yet? And I'm thinking, think of all the planets in the universe, think of all the people on those planets, and then think about all the different times of those people on those planets. And so that's a lot to work through, even with the Doctor, even though traveling as much as the Doctor does.
Yeah.
And you figure, well, the Doctor spends half her time fighting Daleks, so
exactly.
so that's like half her time taken up right there. So she's working her way through. It's give it time, but maybe she's met people and forgotten that she's met people. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But so as wonderful it was to see her with Tesla, especially toward the end when they're kind of like working together to use the tower to channel that lightning bolt to blast the Skithra ship. As touching as that dynamic was, the Doctor is less than receptive of Thomas Edison.
Yes.
By default. And we'll talk about Edison, but what did you make of the Doctor's opinion of Thomas Edison?
Well, obviously, she's Team Tesla.
Yes.
Versus Team Edison.
Right.
She's AC, not DC. I thought
see what you did there. Yes. Very clever. Nicely done.
Yeah, it was and at one point I did not write that down, but when Graham goes, "Hey, AC, DC, can we quit arguing?" And
that was a good line.
Yeah, it was. She's she has some disdain to him. Yes. It's almost, this is not a business opportunity. She even makes that line once. And I think she is pushing him for that reason that, hey, this shouldn't be this kind of situation. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic between them. I really liked, at the end of the episode, there was a little moment between Edison and Tesla, where you should come work for me. And no, and they're not. And
I think that's why that kind of sums up why the Doctor reacted to both differently.
Yes.
Because Tesla's all about the science.
Yes.
And the Doctor is naturally going to gravitate more toward that than Edison's approach of like, well, hey, how can I make money with this?
Yes.
Or like, who can I bring in to make me money?
Yeah.
So obviously, the Doctor is going to be much more sympathetic, I think, with Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, and I understand that concept, and it was. I also like the idea that, she knows that she can't change the past, but she wants to, in her own way, tell Tesla that, scientist is scientist. I admire what you're doing. I respect what you're doing. That may be the only, there is a, boy, this is going back to my childhood, Charles. Yes. Growing,
as we go in the
I don't
back
know,
in time.
Yeah, I don't know how often in Ohio you go to the rodeo, but growing up in Louisiana,
we have them, but I don't go to them.
Yes, going in Louisiana, we would often go as a kid to the rodeo in both Louisiana, and there would be the announcer would say, "Give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen, because that's all he's going home with tonight." Because he had not stayed on the bull long enough, whatever. And I kind of felt that where she's saying, I'm going to give you praise because you will not get that much at the end, which is another reason why it's very similar to Vince and the Doctor. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now you see where I'm coming from with that.
I do.
All right. Anything else about the Doctor or her companions?
No.
All right. So let's move on. Topic number 2. We've already talked about him a little bit already. Let's talk about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. So we have these two important historical figures for different reasons. Played in this case, like I said, by Goran Visnjic and Robert Glenister. And these two can be more opposite.
Yeah.
It's in terms of temperament, attitude. Tesla is the unsuccessful, he's gifted, he's talented, he embraces the science, he loves it, it's his passion, but he doesn't know quite how to make a buck with it.
Yeah, he's a bad businessman. She talked about that.
He's a bad, because we started off the episode where he's trying to woo some investors in this project of his. He's trying to get funding for this generator plant so that he can work on his project for transmitting energy through the ether.
Mm-hmm.
But the investors are very skeptical, and apparently he's got a little bit of a reputation because he claims to have picked up a signal from Mars.
Yes.
So that doesn't really bode well for him commercially, needless to say.
So
but he has Dorothy Scarrett there. She believes in him, and she's very supportive of him. And then all of a sudden, he gets this mysterious floating green sphere,
mm-hmm.
and things take a very Doctor Who-y turn.
Yeah.
From there.
One of the things I thought was interesting, and I actually did a little research. I last night after the episode, I did a Google search of Tesla versus Edison.
Yes.
And
so what did you come up with?
In a couple of places, that's enough that I believe the story about Tesla fixing the generator is a true story. Except what they had said is he had overheard Edison saying, if someone could fix this, I would give them $50,000, which is roughly $1 million in modern money, according to the site.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, Edison was like, I was joking. This is now, and he did offer him,
because he didn't expect anybody to actually fix it.
And so, I mean, it's kind of like, man, I'd give $1 million if someone would fix this, is what they implied. And
next time, get that in writing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
He was, he offered him a $10 a week pay raise, and you go, that's not much, but he was making $14 a week. So, that's a pretty...
That would have been really good. That would have been really good money.
Yeah, that would have been. But the idea, right, is they couldn't get past that.
Well, and also if Tesla had gone to work for Edison, presumably he would have made him sign all his patents over to him.
Yes.
So or Edison would have patented his ideas.
Yeah.
And profited off them, and Tesla would have saw nothing from.
Well, at the time, Tesla was working for him,
because essentially it was work for hire.
Yes, exactly. So, Edison. One of the other things they said is Tesla was the type, and they mentioned that in the episode. It's all up here. He thinks it out altogether, while Edison was more. Let's build it. Did it work? Nope. Okay, let's try it again. Nope. Okay, try it again. Nope, try it again. And he's got that famous thing, and I'm going to get it wrong, but I made 90. You've failed 99 ways to build a light bulb, and he says, no, I've discovered 99 ways to unsuccessfully build a light bulb. And so, that is his, and I think both are valid creative ways. It's just very different. And you could see how the two men would never work together. Yeah.
Yeah. Just they butt heads. And then especially with Edison being, taking that rivalry so seriously, where he's, he kind of they show that in this episode where he's actively campaigning against, Tesla.
Yes.
He's got protesters trying to build up this fear of the general populace of Tesla's alternating current. So
Yes.
in common parlance, AC.
Mm-hmm.
And believing it's much more dangerous than the direct current, DC, advocated by Edison. So essentially, Edison had a stake in the game in DC, but Tesla was advocating AC.
Mm-hmm.
And so that obviously didn't sit very well with Edison because that's against his interests. And so he did everything he could to stoke, this paranoia and fear over this. And this is brand new technology back then. People think, well, they're protesting over electricity, and you have to kind of keep in context of like, this is 1903.
Mm-hmm.
This is still very new technology back then.
Yes.
So this would be like the 1903 equivalent of trying to convince someone that cell phones are going to give you cancer.
Right.
To kind of put that in that historical context a little bit. And so, like you had, and he actually, Edison in this, does something really interesting, and very consistent to his character, which makes it work even better, is that he actually stokes, there's this scene where Yaz is trying to clear the streets and get everybody to safety, and they're not budging. So what does Edison do? He's like, oh, that Nikola Tesla's at it again. He's going to kill us all, and then everybody freaks out and runs away off the streets.
I thought that was genius and scary at the same time.
Right, because it just shows that power he had.
Yeah, and the idea of doing that was but it in this time he was using his evil power for good. Yes.
So it just happened to be the agenda. His agenda and the doctor's agenda were kind of aligned at that moment, at that moment in time. But it worked out really well. Obviously, now, we got to see that contrast between the two scientists. Although with Edison, you have to argue he's more of a businessman, and I know a lot of people that know more about Edison were very happy to see him portrayed in a negative light. I saw that kind of in the comments as I'm kind of scrolling through the hashtag on Twitter. And a lot of people were very happy about how, Edison, who's kind of built as this like great American inventor who gave us the light bulb, and where the actual truth, the historical truth, is not as flattering. And they were very happy to see that come out.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. And, the reality is history is always kind of messy. Yes. And so I thought that was really well done. I agree.
Yeah. There's that saying that history is written by the victors.
Yes.
So Edison, obviously, having triumphed in this rivalry rather easily over Tesla, comparatively speaking. So he kind of got to have his name in the history books, while Nikola Tesla was left to more obscure historical knowledge that only people that really are science geeks or science buffs and would appreciate, or somebody who are history buffs would doing research, going, oh, there's this person, and oh, look at him. Why wasn't this guy more recognized back then?
Yeah.
And that's obviously why Yaz kind of regrets that later on in the episode, the fact that he wasn't recognized, and it is left to historical obscurity a bit. Mm-hmm. So very tragic, but that's unfortunately not every historical story is a happy one.
Yeah, I agree.
As we all know. All right. Anything else about these two men?
No, it was good.
Or Dorothy Scarra. We didn't really talk much about Dorothy, but she's just kind of assisting his companion, if you will.
There was one bit of trivia that I just saw that I had not thought of. This is the second actor from ER that has played a major part on Doctor Who.
Oh, well, tell me, trivia person, Who's the first?
Little lady named Alex Kingston.
Oh, I believe I've heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
She played what was that,
Yeah.
Melody
Yeah.
Song?
Yeah.
Something like that, or Melody Pond.
Yeah.
I can't remember. So yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. I had never thought about that before. So yeah, very good.
Interesting. That's a good little bit of trivia.
Yes.
Nice.
All right.
All right. So third topic, if you don't have anything else.
Nope.
Let's talk about the Skithra.
Okay.
And especially the Queen Skithra, Queen of the Skithra. These Skithra are this alien race who look a lot like the Rachnos from The Runaway Bride. Only those were more spiders. These are scorpions.
Yes.
But even with the Queen Skithra, pretty closely resembled the Queen of the Rachnos, I thought. So I kind of wonder if they're distantly related somehow in some fashion. Very similar in my opinion. And we talked about that Anjli Mohindra plays the Queen Skithra in this. And so I'm kind of curious about your thoughts about this new alien race, or sort of new alien race.
So I thought a little bit of the Ferengi. The scavenger, the whole idea, the doctor's calling him out. That's this, you've used that, you're using technology. A great line of when the doctor goes to Tesla, it's just killing Edison that they want you and not him.
Yes. That was a fun little twist.
That was a fun little twist. I thought this was great.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for making me the target. I guess I'm popular on Skithra.
Yeah, he really these were good villains. The Queen was just chewing the scenery enough that it was fun. I thought they were nice. I agree with you. They did look a little bit, they looked very scorpionish, but reminded you a little bit of the villains from The Runaway Bride. So, I thought they were a nice addition. And I think the answer is, would we want to see them again or would we not? And in this case, here is someone I'd be interested in seeing again. I thought it was well done. How about you, Charles?
The 10th Doctor pretty much kind of took care of the Rachnos. But the Skithra were written out of this episode in such a way we could easily see them again. Yeah. And maybe that's kind of the point. Yeah. That they're the Rachnos that we could easily explain why they're back.
Yes, I think so.
Compared to my wife Lori, she's not really doing great with the Jodie Whittaker era in the sense that Series 11, she had to deal with arachnids in the UK.
Yes.
Preying upon her arachnophobia.
Yes.
In a big way, because giant spiders is a really bad thing for arachnophobes.
Yes, it is.
Lori's second least favorite animal ever are scorpions.
Oh boy! So she's just like,
it's like, come on, And I kind of joked. I was like, well, yeah, last time it was the spiders, and now we have scorpions. So,
yes.
Yay, Doctor Who, right? Yeah. So, I enjoyed the Skithra. I thought it was interesting that apparently their whole agenda, as we find out through the course of the episode you mentioned earlier, is that they just go around stealing other people's technology instead of actually building anything for themselves.
Yes.
And so they're kind of like mooching the technology.
Yes.
They're kind of like the Biff Tannen of the universe.
Yes, nice there. Yes.
The Back to the Future reference for everybody. And because you can never go wrong with a Back to the Future reference.
Never.
All right. And so the Doctor calls this Queen Skithra out big time on this.
Yes.
And is not very impressed at all. Again, we have aliens that are essentially trying to use mankind, or humanity, I should say, to further their own agenda. And because, hey, there's these primitive aliens, let's get them to figure this out for us. And which kind of makes you wonder, well, if they're so primitive, then apparently they're smarter than you. So what does that make you, right?
Yes.
But I love the design of the Skithra. I thought it was a little funny when you had like two or three of them going down these alleyways in New York, and they kind of like, they round a corner and then they kind of bunch into each other. Um, they weren't very like they didn't stay in formation. They just kind of like crashed into each other. Then they sorted themselves off and kept on chasing Yaz or Edison or whomever.
Yeah.
But I thought they were very creepy, and especially that one shot where the doctor's on the Skithra ship, and she looks up, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of these things hanging from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're like someone like my wife Lori who hates scorpions,
yes.
this had to kind of skeeve you out a little bit. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the Skithra, they get taken care of rather easily. The doctor, they works with Tesla. The doctor uses the teleporter and uses it to force the queen back onto her ship, and then they blast some lightning from Wardenclyffe Tower later, and they kind of force the Skithra to retreat. Maybe we'll see them again at some point. But
I hope so. I liked them. Like I said, I thought they were very, very good. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was just the right amount of creepiness. So this was good.
I think they were definitely a step up from the dregs from Orphan 55.
Yes, I agree too.
Much more intimidating.
Yes.
And I think better special effects, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
I can't think of anything.
All right. So what's your favorite quotes of this episode?
So I have a few.
Go for it.
I kind of made a joke about that very early, but the doctor makes a joke when the queen is going to be there. If I'd known we were going to get a royal visit, I'd put the kettle on.
That was good.
Yes. And then and then I've already talked about it, but I love Graham going, "Don't worry, this ain't our first rodeo." And Ryan, "We've never been to a rodeo." And Graham, "You're not helping, Ryan."
That was great.
Yeah.
Just the banner between those two.
Yes.
That was good.
And I love the I did not write it down, but when they go, when the assistant is going like, "Is this pretty normal for you guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is pretty much a day." The last one I had, and then I'll let you go, is Nikola. Tesla says, "Who are you?" And the doctor, "Someone with a fast way out of here." And he has the unique way of saying bigger on the inside.
Yes, and I have that.
Okay, good. Please. That. All right,
yeah,
go for it.
So in that, without on that note, Nikola Tesla gets to go inside the TARDIS, you guys. So that had to be pretty cool, right? Especially for Nikola Tesla. Now, why Nikola Tesla got to keep his memories, but Ada Lovelace couldn't?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yes.
I have no idea, but maybe you figured, well, Ada kind of learns things that she shouldn't have learned.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe Tesla didn't get to figure out anything that he didn't already know, I guess. But anyway, so his quote is his description of the TARDIS. So this is obviously from a much more science-y perspective. Yes. And he goes, instead of saying bigger on the inside, he says, "The internal dimensions transcend the external."
Yes.
Which is a bigger, fancy way of saying that bigger on the inside.
Absolutely. So, yes.
The doctor, I think one of her rather cute quotes was, she's talking and says, "Luckily, high-speed inventing is one of my specialisms." And everybody had to rush their computer as like, specialisms. Is that a word?
Yes.
Turns out, yeah, it is.
Good.
So, go figure. When the doctor shows up on the Skithra ship, she does a nice little nod to the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker.
Aww.
With this line, where she says, "Nice place you've got here, probably." Which is a nod to Tom Baker in City of Death.
Okay.
Written by Douglas Adams, one of my favorite authors, and former script editor on Doctor Who, when he had the Tom Baker's doctor deliver the line to this one female villain, and he says, "You're a beautiful woman, probably."
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So I'm sure that was a direct nod to that.
Yeah, that's really fun. Good.
Yeah, and I, of course, Tesla's quote, "The present is theirs. I work for the future, and the future is mine."
Nice.
Paraphrased, of course,
Yes.
like I said, but it sounds pretty cool.
Absolutely.
In the paraphrasing.
Feels very, very cool. Yes.
All right. So what's your rating for this one?
Well, I like this one a lot. It was it felt really a classic, well done. Who there? I do not think they've been overly political, but there isn't even a hint of politicism in this one. So I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10. Niagara Falls views.
Nice.
Yes.
Slowly I turn.
Yes.
Step by step. Inch by inch. So we're in sync, believe it or not. I also give it 8.5, but I give it 8.5 glowing Thassa orbs.
Nice.
Really like this one. It's a solid episode of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who says they have a problem with this episode of Doctor Who probably doesn't like Doctor Who, and you shouldn't be listening to them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, it was just really well done.
This is a perfectly decent episode of Doctor Who.
And not just, I mean, this was just what they do the best. And
right.
Great cast, good deal, and so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I bet you, Charles, you have a classic episode this reminds you of.
Well, that's only because I always do that every time we talk a modern episode, right? All right, so we're going to reverse the polarity, the neutron flow, back to 1985.
Okay.
To The Mark of the Ronnie.
Ooh, okay.
This is an episode we've talked about here on Next Stop Everywhere, the third serial from season 22. So that's during the Colin Baker era, written by Pip and Jane Baker. And in this one, in the 19th century mining village of Killingsworth, England, miners are being gassed in the wash house and transformed into thugs and vandals, attacking men and machinery, being perceived as Luddites by other locals. The Sixth Doctor and Perry arrive and witness the phenomenon while looking for the cause of a time distortion. Sound a little familiar?
Yes.
And the Doctor notices one of the miners has a strange red mark on his neck. Meanwhile, the Master turns up and confronts the old woman who runs the wash house, who, surprise, is actually another Time Lord known as the Ronnie. And the Ronnie is a gifted chemist with very low ethics, kind of like Thomas Edison, it seems like. She's been using the wash house to anesthetize the miners and distill from them the neurochemicals that enable sleep, which causes the red mark on the victims.
Oh, okay.
Now, these chemicals are then synthesized for use back on Miasmia Goria, a planet that she rules, where her other experiments have left the inhabitants without the ability to sleep.
Okay.
Awkward. The Master convinces her they need to deal with the Doctor together, and the two form an uneasy alliance. Dressed as a miner, the Doctor infiltrates the wash house, where he soon deduces the Brownie's schemes. She entraps him, strapping him to the top of a mine cart as a group of rowdy miners push him toward the gaping entrance to the mine shaft. Luckily, the inventor George Stephenson saves the Doctor just in time. So we have a real-life inventor, kind of just like...
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Here as well.
Sure.
Stevenson has planned a meeting of the scientific and engineering geniuses, but the Master wants to use the finest brains of the Industrial Revolution to help speed up the Earth's development and then use the planet as a power base to take over the rest of the universe.
Good.
He strikes a deal with the Ronnie so that may she return to Earth at any time to harvest more brain fluid if she helps him achieve this. Now, while the villains are away, the Doctor returns to the wash house, dodges the booby traps, and finds his way into the Ronnie's TARDIS. Her control room contains jars of preserved dinosaur embryos. Now, afterwards, the Doctor later surprises the Master and the Ronnie, briefly takes them prisoner, but they flee in her TARDIS. However, the Doctor has sabotaged the navigational system and velocity regulator, and the ship starts heading out of control. In the destabilized condition, one of the jars containing an embryo Tyrannosaurus Rex falls to the floor, and the creature begins to grow, affected by the time spillage. The Master and the Ronnie are stuck against one of the walls of the Ronnie's TARDIS due to the speed at which they're traveling, and are helplessly at the mercy of the rapidly aging immature Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Doctor and Perry, meanwhile, with the threat of the Master and the Ronnie taken care of, leave a file of brain fluid for George Stevenson, telling him and the others to administer it to the affected miners so that they can get back to normal. And then before George Stevenson's astonished eyes, the TARDIS dematerializes.
Good.
The end.
All right. Nice.
So if you're kind of in the mood, like you watch Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, go back and check out the Mark of the Ronnie.
Good. Very nice.
All right.
Good.
From the classic era.
All
So we do have some listener feedback this time. So we've got David K. Proctor and Holly Mack. So Jesse, do you want to read David's email?
Let me pull it up.
And I'll read Holly's.
Okay.
This time.
I appreciate the quick turnaround, guys. That was really great. Yeah.
You're on it.
Yeah. All right. So you want me to read David's?
Yeah, go ahead and read David's. I'll read
right.
Holly's. Yeah.
A brief word about Orphan 55. It wasn't a popular episode, and I gave it a higher rating than most. Often I will find that an episode perhaps doesn't get played over and over like some others, but any new who is a plus. I'm just so excited about this show that I can't get enough. No, we love
nothing
that.
wrong.
Yeah,
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
That is a sign that you are on the right track, sir.
Yes. Nikola Tesla is one of my favorite figures from history. Edison, who definitely had a great impact, was a douche nozzle. The mini-series from Earth to the Moon talks about how he stole the French movie Voyage to the Moon, leaving the filmmaker broke. This episode of Doctor Who seems to capture the essence of the man. Sometimes I hate that money is the only motivation toward progress. Well, money and war. Doctor Who was originally meant to be educational as well as entertaining. I love this episode. I give it 9.5 Tesla generators. Thank you, David K. Proctor. P.S. Thomas Edison once electrocuted an elephant just to prove a point. You can see it on YouTube. I don't really recommend it, but that's what kind of poop stain Edison was. Tell us what you really think, David. I love that. Thank you so much.
I want to know what the half-point deduction is. So what didn't you like?
Yes.
Was it just because it had Thomas Edison being a douche nozzle?
Yes, maybe so. Yes.
Yeah, but thank you, David. Always great to hear from you, and you've been killing it this season as we talk Series 12. So always great to hear from you. And so joining David, also getting right in on that, even with the quick turnaround. So I'm going to give points to Holly Mack as well. So Holly from Wisconsin writes in, "Hey, Charles and Jesse."
That's us.
That's us. Crazy, right? To answer your question from last episode, I don't know Adrienne from Wisconsin, but it's nice knowing that there's another Whovian in the state of Wisconsin listening to the podcast. So like I said, Wisconsin's represented here.
Yes, they are.
So everybody else step up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So points to Wisconsin. This was a fun romp of an episode. And having seen both seasons of Timeless, this had a timeless feel because you guessed it, the actor who played Tesla was one of the leads in Timeless.
Yes, he was, and well said, Holly.
Yeah, loved the group dynamic between the companions and Tesla and company. Was it just me, or did the Skithra look like a long-distant cousin of the Rachnos?
It was not just you.
It's not just you, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of us expected it to turn out to be the Rachnos, but not quite. So the Doctor pulling the switcheroo at the end of the episode, I could kind of see coming. It was pulled off, and it was pulled off brilliantly. I will wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Holly.
We really appreciate your emails, guys.
Yeah, and especially on such a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
So
Because you didn't know when we were recording.
Yeah.
You just watched the episode. You're like, I got to get this in.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it, and that's the sign of a good episode where you're just like, I got to talk about this to somebody, or I'm gonna bust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is why we have a podcast.
Indeed.
In case you're wondering. So if you want to be like Holly and you want to be like David, and please do, please reach out to us. Next Stop Everywhere SMG at gmail.com. That's Next Stop Everywhere SMG for Southgate Media Group at gmail.com. Or on Twitter, you can reach us at Next Stop SMG on Twitter. Or on Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or on Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere Podcast.
Ah, yes.
And Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
Well, first off, you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can find me on other social medias under Jesse Jackson. You can hear me talk. Just recently, we finished talking in fact, this came out today on the Phantom Zone podcast. We talked about the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover, the CW Arrowverse. We discussed that. If you are just now finding the Teen Titans on DC Direct, Titan Talk is where Charles and I talk about that. And then I am on Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world.
Bruce Deans.
Yes, Bruce Deans. Yes. So, yeah. And Charles, how about you?
Is that like some subset of Bruce Springsteen fandom, the Bruce Deans?
Yes, the Bruce Deans. Yes.
All right. That's a new thing. I like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I want to be a Bruce Dean.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, as for me, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. We're going to talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including your Doctor Who, including your Sarah Jane Adventures and your Torchwood, and all kinds of comic book sci-fi news. News of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Phantom Zone podcast, where we just had our one that Jesse was talking about was our 175th episode, you guys, where we wrapped up our Crisis on Infinite Earths discussion with DJ Nick stepping in once again to talk about the last two episodes of Crisis. So please check that out. It's now available. And also Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where Jesse said, where we talk the DC Universe series Titans and Doom Patrol. And we'll be coming back on that with new episodes once Doom Patrol Season 2 arrives. And then Ghostway, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard here on Next Stop Everywhere, so you know how awesome Zan is. So please check us out on that, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And by the way, happy birthday, David Lynch.
Ah, nice.
Happy 74th birthday, David Lynch. And also, all kinds of pop culture references and our usual digressions. So please check those out. We definitely appreciate that. And of course, check out Jesse's. And by the way, if you're looking for Jesse and I, you can't just get enough of the two of us. Go to DJ Nick's podcast, Happiness and Darkness, where just 2 days from now, I'm going to be talking on my third podcast this week as Jesse and I discuss the Avengers movie from 2012 with DJ Nick. So
Yes.
Look out for that. I'm sure that'll be posted later this week.
Yes.
And I'm sure Nick would definitely appreciate it. So cheers to Nick.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped us out on Phantom Zone, so the least we can do is help him out on Happiness and Darkness.
Absolutely.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk Fugitive of the Jadoon. So we have more Jadoon platoon upon the moon, or Earth, actually, in this case, not so much the moon. The fifth episode of Series 12, where stomping their way into present-day Gloucester, the Jadoon are on the hunt for someone on the run. Who is this fugitive, you may ask, and why are these alien mercenaries after them? Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
hopefully it'll be somebody cool. Be nice
Absolutely.
if it was. Hopefully it was tied into the Timeless Child a little bit. That would be nice.
It would be, yes.
So everybody come back for that. This could be fun to talk Jadoon, because then we can do really bad Jadoon impressions. And everybody, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Jesse, any final words?
No, it was a lot of fun. Good to see Doctor Who going through. I think, we've had some up and down episodes, but overall, New Who is always great. So we'll see what happens, next week. I think the premise sounds fun. So I'm excited.
We kind of went back on the upswing once again with this episode,
Yes.
and hopefully we'll just keep going back up.
Yeah.
So come on back, Fugitive of the Jadoon, next time, episode 169 of Next Stop Everywhere. And we'll see you next time right here, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.